I want to give you a sense of why I call the book Drunk Tank Pink. Drunk Tank Pink is a color, and it's an emblem, I think, for a lot of the effects that I talk about in the book. It's a bright pink, bubblegummy, Pepto-Bismol color. If you could see the screen as I see it here, it looks like the worst antibiotic you had to take as a kid. So that bright pinkish, sickening color. And the color came to prominence in the 60s at first. Psychologists, I see some of you have been reading the book, and so that means you probably started with the prologue, which means that you read a little bit about this. But psychologists in the 60s in parts of Canada were very interested in trying to determine whether if you changed the colors of the walls in a room, you could change the behavior of the students. Could you lead them to behave better? And that's where the original use of the color came in. What they did was they went into a series of classrooms and they painted those classrooms a series of different colors. And then they measured whether that had any effect on the behavior of the students. It was reasonably scientific, but it wasn't as rigorous as we'd like it to be, as scientists like these things to be usually. And they had theories about all these different colors, that blue might be associated with the tranquility of the sea or the sky. Green would remind them of nature and the organic nature of trees and greenery. And so that might make them a little more creative and a little bit more relaxed. Yellow should make them feel more engaged, vibrant, interested. And pink, they weren't really sure what to make of pink, but they tried it anyway. And it turns out that's the color that stuck the best. The best responses came from this color pink, because the rowdy students in the classroom who were most disruptive turned out to be a lot less so in the presence of this color pink. That's pretty striking, but obviously we don't have enough evidence just from that one study to make strong claims about this color. And so they started to do some more rigorous studies to see whether they could show that this color pink had systematic effects on human behavior. So one of the first studies was run on 153 men, healthy men, and what they were asked to do was to stare at a piece of pink cardboard, just a pretty small piece of pink cardboard, and to stare at that cardboard for a minute. And after that, they were asked to grip what is called a hand grip dynamometer, which basically measures your grip strength. And then it shows on a digital scale how hard you're gripping with your hand. So they had these men look at the pink cardboard for a minute and then grab the dynamometer and grip it as hard as possible. And then they had them repeat that with blue cardboard. Some people did it in that order. Some people looked at the blue cardboard first. Obviously, you need to counterbalance these things because you'll get weaker over time. But the results were pretty striking. What they found was among those 153 people, every single one of them, except for two, was stronger after looking at the blue cardboard than at the pink cardboard, which is a striking effect. In social science research, in this sort of human performance research, that's a huge, huge, huge effect. It's unusual to find such a strong effect. And so they started to talk about this a little more widely. They shared it with the media. It started to take off in popular culture in all sorts of different settings. So the reason it has its other name, Drunk Tank Pink, is more officially known as Baker Miller Pink. The names Baker and Miller are the names of two naval officers who worked at a correctional facility that happens to be quite near here. It was in Seattle. And what they did was they saw a talk about this color, and they decided that they too would paint the inside of jail cells, a couple of their drunk tanks, this color. And the idea was that they would pacify the prisoners who came in, the most rowdy and dangerous prisoners. They'd throw them in there for 15 minutes and they would come out 15 minutes later, pacified, less aggressive, tranquilized, better behaved. And across a 9-month period, they reported that even though they had regular incidents, when they put the prisoners in this cell for 15 minutes, they didn't have a single incident afterwards, which is another striking effect. And then football coaches got wind of this. And at the University of Iowa, they decided that they would paint the visitors' locker room this color to try to pacify their opponents. So the idea was that before the game started, their opponents would walk into this visitors' locker room, they would see this bright pink color, and they would be weakened by that. Since it weakened prisoners and it weakened guys who are holding hand grips, it would weaken the football players as well. And then at halftime, when normally they would get jazzed for the second half, they actually emerged weaker again. And this is an idea. And in fact, the University of Iowa still looks like this. The visitor locker room is still this pink color. So Drunk Tank Pink gained a lot of currency. And there are some questions about the effect today. People question why the effect emerged. Is it something biological? Do we respond to that particular color? Is it something about the association we have with the color pink? There's quite a lot of research suggesting all sorts of alternatives, and I talk about a little bit of that in the opening of the book. I think it's a nice emblem for the effects that I talk about in the book because it arose up from nowhere. People couldn't believe that something as innocuous as a color could have such powerful effects, and yet it seems to have those effects.